This program is brought to you by the Center for a Sustainable Today.
I appreciate scrolling through of the sponsors here in no small measure, because the ones that I'm familiar with are sort of a who's who of business, industry that are focused on the economy of today and for the future. And you are a critical part of that. You know, there was no way that I could not accept an invitation to join you. One of my closest friends in Congress is Representative Sam Farr, who represents the Monterey Peninsula and who is the organizer and chair of the Congressional Tourism Caucus, a tireless advocate on your behalf. And he's somebody who exudes sustainability to just the core of his being. And there is a lot here that we think we can share with you and that we can learn from one another. The role of tourism, particularly sustainable tourism, playing in the economy of the world and of our communities, and helping orient how people think about who they are, relate to one another, relate to their communities, is very, very important. Today, when we are 24 hours away from any disease known to humankind, exotic bugs or whatnot, where we can have cranky people on our doorstep, we're also part of a set of interconnected relationships that really have opened up far more possibilities than there are problems. And the notion of pursuing ecotourism, sustainable practices, sort of connecting people to the best of what the natural environment has to offer, is critically important. I would suggest that these are the types of issues that make a difference in the way that people live every day. They're non-partisan. They're not political. Done properly, they improve people's lives. They strengthen community. They certainly improve our physical health. And they help protect the planet. And having just left a previous speech with some of my friends in the Tea Party movement, I suspect that you can also play an important role in healing the political process as well. I would, if you'll indulge me, talk for a couple minutes about some of the things that I think have made a difference here and are worth looking at as you visit. I mean, we are proud. I have a congressional district that includes half of Mount Hood, the incomparable Timberline Lodge, some of the best windsurfing to be found anywhere in the world. It probably contributed to John Kerry losing his presidential election, looking like a surf geek when he was here. We're 75 minutes away from the Oregon coast. Just immediately to the north of you is the largest urban forest in the United States, Forest Park, where you can run literally for miles and just sort of disappear. There are Olmsted-inspired and designed parks and parkways. There's a lot here that we're excited about and we think you might want to take a look at. But I would ask that you consider it in the context of where you come from and where you visit. I go someplace every month around the country dealing with livability and streetcars and bikes and environment this and eco that. I will tell you, I have not yet visited a community, no matter its reputation, that didn't have a gem or two that blew me away. Special neighborhoods and streets, ethnic connections, connections to the physical landscape, and places that had spectacular potential. And we're all in this process together to learn from one another, to spread the gospel, and make sure that every community is a livable community. And that we exercise the stewardship, whether it's natural areas, farmland, coast, river, to make sure that it's taken care of properly. In our state, back in the old days when I was actually in the legislature, before almost all of you were born, we started some initiatives. The first comprehensive statewide land use program in the United States that mapped and zoned every square inch in the state and protected farm and forest land and had a series of objectives ranging from transportation and water to dealing with the economy and housing. That has helped us protect special places. It's helped us to have a clear distinction between farm and urban areas, to the protection of them both, and frankly, strengthening both. I mentioned a wine tour I'm going to have this weekend. It is amazing what has happened with Oregon's vineyards, many of whom are committed to the highest standard of sustainability, which not only helps them produce a better product, but it is a marketing advantage, and they feel better about their work. What we've seen with farm-to-fork dinners, where farmers and vintners access urban markets, increasing the emphasis on local production. Back 20 years ago, when I was on the Portland City Council, I think we had 10 farmers markets in Oregon. Last count, we have about 100 farmers markets, 40 of them in this area, and about half inside the city of Portland itself. And they're contributing well over $20 million a year of direct income to local farmers. No middle person, more money in their pocket, greater satisfaction with the customer linking to the producer. I'm not going to steal Christian's thunder talking about Beervana, but we're proud. In our community, we think we have more local breweries than any other city in the world. We're working on three dozen. And it is, it's been an amazing addition to neighborhood quality, economic development, our image of ourselves, and it's a lot of money for a little community like ours, pushing 5,000. Chris will give you some figures in terms of full-time employees, a couple $2 billion. This is important for us on so many different levels. And we're putting out the snob buttons, supporter of native Oregon beer. Here you'll find you have to be careful with all the bicycles on the street. The bicycle is the most efficient form of urban transportation ever designed. We're quite proud of the facilities that we've developed here, bike lanes, bike boulevards, bike parking. All of what you see here that has increased cycling over 400% in the last 20 years was accomplished for the cost of 1 lane of a freeway. Yeah. One of our busiest bridges is just down the street and about, half a mile to the southeast. The Hawthorne Bridge has increased traffic into the central city 20% since 1991. And you'll see it's a bridge, a banner on it tells you it's 100 years old, kind of constrained in terms of what you can put there, and then where they go once they go, where the cars go once they go across it. 95% of that increased traffic is by bicycle. And it cost about $50,000. This is something that has made a difference here, but it has the potential of making a difference across the country. If everybody in America between 10 and 65 walked or biked an hour a day, we would reduce our need for petroleum by over a third. And I think people would be a little less cranky. Blood pressure levels would drop. And it would make a difference for air quality and the quality of life in the community. I mean, think about it right now. All across America, how many people do you think are stuck in traffic on their way to ride a stationary bike in a health club? These are things that we can do something about in a cost-effective, people-friendly way. And it's big business. We sold more bicycles last year than cars in the United States. In Portland, little Portland, it's almost a $100 million a year industry. It employs about 1,200 people in the bike shops and the manufacturing activities. In Portland, speaking of events and ecotourism, we think we have a bicycle-related event about every 30 seconds. No joke. And last year when I did my political tourism, it coincided with the naked bike ride of some 5,000 people. I don't know that they've done a careful census this year, but I've heard that between 5,000 to 10,000 people. In terms of these elements that you will see here, to think about ways of marketing sustainability, going back to the future, and simplifying. You will see the first modern streetcar in the United States. That on our streets, over 8 million people have used it. We're going to connect back to, on the east side of the river, to Nancy's facility. We're going to put on it the first American manufactured streetcar in 58 years. These are things that tie together. Bikes and beer and bread and nursery industry. I mean, you just go through the things that in a little community like ours, we see the synergy. We're interested in it. People elsewhere are interested in it. In fact, this is the 10th year of bringing Chinese government officials to Portland to examine our land use planning and transportation legislation. We are in the process here of trying to translate these principles of livability into the practice of how we operate. And from my vantage point, ecotourism is one of the most important connections to make the point, to bring people together, to inspire them to raise their sights. We need to be thinking seriously about what that federal partnership is, whether it's transportation facilities, whether it is protection of landscape and scenic areas, taking care of our national parks. Now that Ken Burns put out this spectacular book and film series, you know, what are we doing to protect them? How we can work with you, whether it is in our tax policy, our transportation policy, our agricultural policy, to be able to strengthen that tie, to make it easier for people around the country and around the world to visit and enjoy. I am absolutely convinced that what you are doing here is truly the Lord's work. It is about improving our communities, learning from one another, strengthening those ties, enhancing our capacity for sustainable activity. Because this ultimately is going to determine whether or not we protect the planet for our future generations. I deeply appreciate your work. I appreciate your willingness to allow me to hang out with you for a few minutes this afternoon, and look forward to working with you in the future to make sure you get the support on the federal level that you want and deserve. Thank you very much.